Joining me to talk about all this, HLN legal analyst, great criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson, also back with us, psychotherapist and author of the book Till Death Do Us Part, Robi Ludwig. Robi, let me start with you. When you think about what this dad/grandfather would be going through, how difficult would even the thought of a conversation with the man accused of killing your family be?
Oh, this must be so tough for the father. He's a crime victim as well. He must feel enraged, absolutely angry that he has to be put in this situation. It's kind of hard to understand how even legally Chris Watts, after what he allegedly did, would even be allowed on this phone call. And sometimes victims' families feel some kind of self-blame, like they should have been able to see that the son-in-law, the murderer, was a dangerous person. So I'm sure this man is having just a range of emotions that are very difficult to deal with.
And Robi, real quick with you, this is a civil court hearing. What can you do to keep it in control in a situation like this? What do you have to, basically?
Well, I mean, I think that's where the lawyers come in and can be very helpful. They almost become like surrogate parents to remind the family members of what the purpose of the meeting is and to really just stick to the facts and not get sidetracked. And also, these intense emotions really need to be dealt with outside of this kind of civil courtroom, because really there's no place for it, and it wouldn't really serve as any therapeutic value.
Yeah, no. Well, Joey, let me, I wasn't going to ask you, but let me ask you, have you ever had that situation where you have to calm a client in a highly emotional situation?
So, Mike, what happens is, and good to see you, and of course, Dr. Robi, what happens is that most lawyers, of course, have that experience, because the issues that you're litigating over, whether they be civil or criminal in nature, they're just so emotionally charged. The stakes are so high, and someone's aggrieved. If it's a criminal case, oftentimes, you know, as you look at the counts that he's charged with, and even, look, the termination of the pregnancy, she was 15 weeks pregnant. But generally in situations, Mike, if you're defending someone who's accused of a crime, you have the other family who certainly is there, and they're victims, and, you know, it's a really difficult process to negotiate with that. If you're in court and it's a civil dispute, the litigants are generally vested in the sides that they have. And so generally, attorneys, of course, do a lot of hand-holding, and, you know, a judge oftentimes would take control in the event that the litigants get off topic, right? You're there for a specific person and purpose and reason, and the event that it gets personal, which, you know, sometimes happens, unfortunately, you know, a judge certainly takes control of that. But I could not even envision nor imagine an instance like this where you have to share a phone call with a person who, look at these beautiful photos, Mike, is responsible or allegedly responsible for killing them in addition to that fetus.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk on the legal front, Joey. So we learned this week that Shan'ann did not have a will. So let's talk about specific things mentioned. Insurance money, Shan'ann's car. Is that Chris Watts at this point?
So you know what happens, Mike, because of there's no will, there are all these legal terms. It's called dying intestacy, and that means you die without a will. In any jurisdiction, and I know we're in Colorado here, but it mirrors others, where there is no will, the law essentially establishes where your things are going to go. And so in the absence of a will, it goes to your spouse, right? And in the absence of the spouse, it goes to your children. I think in an instance like this, and then there are those items which are not covered by the will, that, you know, bank accounts, other things which don't necessarily relate to the will, but you can take under beneficiary, right? When we go to the bank, we declare who's our beneficiary. When we have an insurance policy, we declare who our beneficiary is. I think in this instance, it will most certainly be challenged. And to Robi's point earlier about, you know, why is there even a proceeding? I mean, as unfortunate as it is, you have these instances where someone stands accused of a crime and the proceeding still goes forward. And that's just because of the technical issue. I mean, you know, there's due process, innocent till proven guilty, but ultimately I see the family challenging it in the event that he is found guilty. I think he'll wind up with nothing.
Okay. Guys, thanks again. Joey Jackson, Robi Ludwig on The Story for us.